passion that we learn, we were born with it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Big Vinny. It's my buddy Jeff, and we have a guest in the studio today. As you see, Jerry Blake's not here, but we've replaced him with somebody way prettier, way more awesome. Well, maybe not way more awesome, but equally as awesome. My friend Stefani Baca that I met down at the Grant Cardone's, or the 10X stages, whatever you want to call it, Great American Speak Off. We were both in the top 30. I think we both made top 10, right?
Mm-hmm, top 15.
Top 15, yeah, whatever.
11.
We crushed it together. It was great. I got to meet her. She was a fellow Tennessean, which I thought was great. She was from right here, went to school in Franklin High School. And so we decided, with that being said, we needed to make sure we had her on the podcast when she was in town, because she is living in the great old Sunshine State, living it up on the beach all the time, all that good stuff. But basically, I was, I loved, your character when you were helping Claudette, who was kind of, both of you had to go back in and take a second shot at right at the top 10. And even though you were a competition, whether you were cheering her on, you were telling her how great she was doing, and she was a little nervous for her, even though she ended up making the final 5, I just thought that showed so much character in you when you were still in that process of like, okay, I got to get my stuff right. You took time to listen to her and give her some pointers and tell her what you loved about it. And I just thought that was cool. That meant a lot to me from an outsider looking in at your character of who you are. And so I want to make sure that we get across in this podcast what you're doing now, because I know you've done a lot of stuff from being on the news and being a personality and all these other things, but you have your own company going that's your own thing now. And I want to make sure we get that across. But I also want to learn more about you as a person. I want to know like what made you the way you are, what made you be that kind of person that's going to cheer somebody on even when they're your competition. Not saying that you didn't want to go in there and crush it and win, but you were still there for her. So that's kind of, the Refine Life podcast. Refine can be thrown up in the air sometimes because sometimes we get unrefined. But
sometimes.
I think being refined, a lot of that is showing people love, showing people grace, showing people forgiveness, all that kind of stuff. And then, cheering on your competitors sometime and just being there for them as a backup when they're nervous or when they're down, unless they're trying to kill you, and then just kill them, Anyways, that being said, Jeff, you got anything to say before we get started?
Yeah, we just went from how awesome she is and how much you respect her integrity.
To kill your enemy.
And how much she loves people to kill them.
Yeah.
That was epic.
With kindness is what I meant.
Oh, got you.
Kill them with kindness.
Okay, all right.
See, you didn't let me finish.
Oh, we thought you were done. We weren't sure.
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
you took
we
a
weren't.
pause, so we thought you were done. But
well,
maybe you
I'm pretty sure he even looked at me and said, "Jeff, do you have any thoughts?"
He didn't really want to know your thoughts. He just wanted to.
No, I wanted you to say with kindness. See, I thought you were finishing my.
No, my name's
sandwiches.
not Jerry Blake.
Sandwiches. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so here's what I want you to do. So I just want you to give us a little, 2 or 3 minute introduction of who you are, what you do, and why we're going to be interested to learn from you today.
All right, you're going to learn from me because I'm a risk taker. I am not somebody who handles the word no very well. I grew up in a small town at the time. I was closer to Fairview. We didn't have what Tennessee is now at that time. And so I always told my parents, I'm going to be in Hollywood. I want to be an actress. And I've heard along the way, 1 in a million makes it. But I knew I was made for bigger things. I knew I wasn't going to be this small town girl who just stays here my whole life. No, nothing against that if that's people's paths. Just wasn't mine. And I knew it at a young age. So I like to push the boundaries on things. And I like to take risks. And I like to face my fears. We all know that F word, fear. And most of our dreams are killed by fear. Mm-hmm. And I'm not that person. If I'm scared of something, I'm going to jump in and do it. Because behind that, to me, is the magic. And I try to explain that to people because they look at me and think, I could never do what you do. How do you do this? That's crazy. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path because I'm a way shower. It's my plan to jump in and show people the unbelievable can be believable. It's only unbelievable because we haven't seen the other side of it. So long story short, moved from Nashville to Hollywood during 2008 when the market crashed. I was going to buy a house in East Natty. Whoop, whoop.
Okay.
And that fell through. And I said, if this is going to fall through, I'm moving out to California. And I did. I packed my bags, shipped everything I could fit in a Southwest airplane carry-on. I lied. 3 check bags and a carry-on. And I moved out to California. And I got my butt kicked. I mean, I was dragged through the mud. And I learned a lot. I took massive action. I was a very successful actress at one point. I was working with Disney up into Comedy Central. I was on big movie sets, and I loved it. And at the time, a friend of mine said, hey, I want you to help me produce this web series. And I said, no. I'm not a producer. I'm an actress. Let's get that clear. He's like, just try it. What do you have to lose? So I said, okay. You know, we had just wrapped working with the Jonas Brothers and Selena Gomez, Wizardly of Waverly Place.
Ooh.
And I jumped in. I know. I jumped into this project and we sold it as the first independently produced series to a network at the time called Hulu.
Oh.
And I said, okay,
That little thing.
that little thing. And I thought, this is fun. I really like this because I can really control the set and I can get to know people's stories and I can help people along the way where I saw struggles as an actress as well. Then we got into the fitness industry. We started working a lot, working with some of the top bodybuilders, and we realized Gold's Gym was this staple, the Mecca in Venice. And we're like, you guys really need some content that's going to blow this up. You're working with some of the top elite athletes in the world. Let's tell their stories. So we came in, completely changed the industry with content creation. My husband was more behind the camera. I was more in front. And we started telling bodybuilder stories. And we met Chris Bell, who did Bigger, Stronger, Faster. And at the time, he was doing a documentary. And he was like, I want you guys to come on and help. So we sold that to Netflix. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. I started having a really good time. And I was in the industry, which is what I always wanted to do. I just thought my path was going to be different. But my favorite quote is, if you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not in the driver's seat here. I'm just here showing up, being of service, and whatever I can do to help people along the way, I'll do it. And we did what most people do. You know, you're in the Hollywood scene, you're busting your butt, and then boom, we crashed. We had a burnout. And I told my husband, I said, this is not what our life should be. We should enjoy this. We love telling people stories. What's going on? Why are we feeling kind of burnt out right now? So we decided to pack up, move to Miami as these big Netflix documentary filmmakers, and nobody knew who we were. So we show up in Miami like, hey, don't you want to work with us? And they're like, nah. And I was like, what's going on? We went from the highest of high in our life to the lowest of low. And we learned that people don't care. Nobody cares who you are. So how do you change that, especially as a business owner? So we took all that knowledge of telling stories and helping businesses now, instead of doing it in the film industry, we found a niche. So we were able to go deeper and ask hard questions of business owners, and we took off in Miami. And then we all know what happened. COVID came through and crushed some people's souls, but we said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to stay above it. So we bought a Mercedes cargo van. Our clients were all over the country at this point because we had branded ourselves as the storytelling business, content creation, which at the time in COVID, everybody was on their phones. Mm-hmm. That's what we did. So why not attract that audience?
Absolutely.
We built out a van and traveled and made some really, we had the best year of our life. And I hate to say that because so many people suffered, and I don't discredit that, but it was wonderful. It was so much fun, you guys.
But, you know, a lot of times you see that happen whenever crazy or bad things happen, and I think there's, you know, a want and a desire to just like, man, screw this, man, I can't get ahead no matter what I do. And other people, you included in this one, you said, hey, you know what, I'm going to go out there and do something different. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to make something work. I'm going to make something happen. And you did, and I think that's awesome. I knew a good piece of your story because I got to hear your speech and some of your stuff, but I don't think I knew the actress part necessarily. I think I knew more of the what you do kind of now part. So I think it's really cool that, you know, you went out there for one reason and then maybe found your purpose or found your passion. Not that you still don't have the desire to be, you know, in front of the camera, but being behind there telling people stories, or if you get to be, you know, kind of the, I guess, almost like the, what would it be, like the host, I guess, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in these things. So you do get to have that chance to be on there. I love that you told bodybuilder stories because I think a lot of people think, oh, these guys and girls are just vain and they look in the mirror all the time. And when my wife competes and has competed and won, she won the Flex Lewis, she's won, you know, tons and got qualified for a pro card. And then I got her pregnant. You're welcome, babe.
She's strong
Wait,
AF.
is she, what division is she in?
Bikini.
Oh,
She was bikini. They tried to get her to
wow.
switch. She was with Tony Haynes, was her coach here in town. And they tried to get her to switch one up, but she's only 4'11".
So she's in Class A.
Yeah. So her biggest issue was always, you know, those legs are, you know, pretty short, you know, so getting those to show. And she did. She got them to show and got them to, you know, separate and show the separation in her hams and all that kind of stuff. But for her, that means getting down to like 94 pounds, you know, stuff like that. And she was a third-degree world champion black belt in Taekwondo, so she did all this kicking. So very rounded muscles, very hard from doing all the kicking and holding kicks and things like that. Whereas obviously, you know, in the bodybuilding world, you know, you're high repetition and things like that, and you got to just get lean AF, as they'll say. But anyways, but I just think it's cool because when I started meeting these bodybuilders and these guys, most of them have this just bad self-worth, like their self-consciousness is they don't ever think they're good enough. While everybody else thinks they're looking in the mirror being vain, they're really looking in there saying, man, I'm not as big as that guy. Man, I'm not as in shape as that person. I'm not as cut as this person. And to most of us, to the average male, which I'm not really average, I'm a strong man. But anyways, to the average male, they think, man, that guy looks like a Greek god. He looks like Adonis. But in their mind, they're like, dude, I'm so fat.
Hypercritical.
Yeah.
To the finest fibers
Yeah.
of their muscles. It is fascinating. But that's their whole life. That's what they do. And it's terrifying to me because I can't understand their mindset when they deal with people who are constantly critiquing them on Instagram and social platforms. All they do is read comments too. I'm like, stop reading the comments. You know who you are. You're the top 5 in the world. But they still let the haters get to them. It's heartbreaking.
It always blows my mind. Of course, I love, Derek Lunsford won this past year, and I'm a fan. I used to, when I worked for another fitness company, his stepmom was one of my clients, and I helped her lose like 45, 50 pounds. And I was always like, when she told me who her stepson was, I'm like, what the hell do you need me for? You have like the one of the greatest bodybuilders in the world right now. But he's probably focused on him, and he's not focused on helping a 48-year-old woman lose weight. So, but it was, it was crazy to me when I started reading these comments, like you said, on what they would say to these dudes. They're like, oh, he's not near as big as so-and-so. And I'm like, I can't even tell the difference between either one of them. I was like, I can tell his back's a little more shredded, but his legs are a little bigger. But, I don't know what the judges are looking for necessarily. But it's amazing to me. I'm like, dude, you're sitting there eating a bag of potato chips, judging some dude that's, in a peak physical. Well, he's on steroids. Well, he's doing this, he's doing that. I was like, you're doing nothing.
Yeah. And even though they're on steroids, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You still got to work.
You still have to do the work. You can't just sit there and inject yourself and look like that.
Yeah.
You have to really kick your own butt every single day in the kitchen, in the gym, in your relationships. I mean, those all take a fault. And people don't see the hard work. So that's why I think the content creation was so important. We got to take the people in and say, this is what the life of a bodybuilder looks like. And we did day in the life. And some of these guys were up at 3 a.m., hitting the gym, cooking their food, going home, going to the gym again, doing posing. It's a full-time job.
When they're in bulk mode, they'll get up in the middle of the night a couple times to drink protein shakes and eat,
Yeah.
I was reading a thing when Pain and Gain, when Mark Wahlberg was shooting that movie Pain and Gain, he had to gain like 40-something pounds of muscle. Of course, not all of it was muscle, but he had to gain like 40-something pounds. He said he was getting up and he was eating 10 meals a day. He was getting up twice in the middle of the night to drink 1,000-calorie protein shake and go back to bed.
Sounds terrible.
I'm telling you, when you have to, I never had that luxury because I come in a little bigger. So I was always on like cod and asparagus 6 times a day and just miserable. Well, my girlfriend was eating 7 meals. Like, I'm so full. I'm like, it must be nice.
Yeah.
I'm starving.
So you competed? Did you?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. I did bikini. I thought
Awesome.
I want to be the healthiest I've ever been. I looked amazing, but I was definitely not the healthiest I had ever been. It was the most unhealthy I had probably. And
How was your mental state?
terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell this as a joke now, but at the time it's really sad. But my husband, I would give him a key to a cabinet that had a bunch of junk food. And I said, do not let me in this cabinet. Whatever you do, you take this key. And he would take the key. And by nighttime, I was like, give me the fucking key or I am going to leave you. And he's like, you told me not to give it to you. I'm like, give me the key. I mean, I became a monster.
But you've been working out so much, you're like, you know what? I don't need the key. Wham! Just rips it off.
I told him, I said, if you don't give me the key, I'm ripping this off the wall. And he'd give me the key. I would binge, which I'm not a binger, but I would binge. And then I would get mad at him later for giving me the key. Don't give me the key. I mean, it was this cycle. I mean, it was really sick.
Well, and that's where having a great bodybuilding coach really comes in handy because they teach you how to diet after the show.
Bingo. I didn't have that. And
Yeah, and if you don't have that, I mean, like with my wife, she luckily, Tony is a great coach, and he showed her. He's like, hey, you're not going to go back tomorrow to eating all the food, but you can slowly introduce certain things back in because you've spent the last 8 weeks eating tilapia and asparagus and blueberries as a treat, maybe.
10 almonds.
Yeah. I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, my wife now, like she's she's in a whole different part of her life. But I'll be sitting there saying, hey, I made us up some chicken. She's like, I don't really eat chicken. I was like, well, I made us up some fish. She goes, I don't really eat fish. I'm like, what do you eat? She's like, I'll eat ground beef or I'll eat ground turkey. And she was like, and she'll eat sardines for whatever reason. Like the actual sardines that
From
you
a
can
can.
see them.
Just
Yeah, from a
eats them on a
can.
cracker.
But she won't eat tuna anymore. She
ruins
got
you.
tired of tuna. She got tired of some of this stuff. But it was amazing because we had a really good friend who was a massive weight loss person like me, and she had lost like 140 pounds. And for a female, that would be equal to me losing about 300 pounds, which I lost 250, 260 from my heaviest down to my lightest. But I kind of warned her going in because she had lost all this weight, and then she got her surgery done to get the skin removed, which was great. She goes, oh my gosh, I want to do a bodybuilding show. I said, well, hang on, before you do it, who's your coach? I want to know who it is because I want you to be prepared for, I don't want you to do this crazy massive diet down thing and manipulate all your water and all this other stuff because you're not like the rest of these girls. You've already been, this massive amount of weight, and your body, your fat cells outside of the skin you removed, your fat cells are all still there. I said, when all of a sudden you starve your body from it, as soon as you introduce anything back in, it's going to take it and hold on for dear life.
So true.
Because your body is smart. Like, it wants to adjust. Like, no, you didn't feed me. I don't trust you. I'm going to put back all this stuff I can and store it for later. And then you end up not even getting what you need, on a cellular level to feed your body and to be functional every day. And so she didn't listen to me. She did the thing. And afterwards, she, of course, had the donuts and all the stuff.
She gained
after
20 pounds in like a week.
20, 30 pounds. Yep. And then all of a sudden her stomach stayed bloated all the time. Yep. And her hair started falling out. And PCOS, started. And all this other stuff. And now she's went through and studied. Now she's learned all about her hormones, all about fixing all that stuff. And she's doing great now. But it took her 2 or 3 years to really figure it out. And she's a smart woman. Sorry, Jeff, you were going to say.
I was just going to go back to their confidence. Does all this lead to the lack of confidence?
Bodybuilders, you mean?
Yeah.
The lack of confidence. It's a good question.
The ones I know seem insecure, right? Which
they're constantly judging themselves.
They're constantly being judged and
being judged.
So they try to judge themselves.
Well, and then think about this: you go out there and you put in that work for 5-6 months, whatever it is that you're trying to go compete, and you get up there and you just get blown out and you don't even place. And there's 40 other bodybuilders in there, 40 other bikini, 200 other bikini girls that are in there, and you don't place, and you've looked the best you've ever looked. Everybody that you know is telling you how great you are, and you're going to win this thing, and you get in there and you don't even get in the top 5, the top 10, top 15. You don't even make, whatever. You're like the first callbacks. You don't even get into anything, and then you're defeated. I mean, you're like, man, I did all this work. I paid out all this money. Your bikini alone probably cost you $1,500. Did all this work, and in your mind, you had a goal set, and you didn't reach that goal.
And at that point, you're not mentally right either.
Yeah, because you've been deprived of a lot of calories for the last at least 2 or 3 weeks.
Do you know who Logan Franklin is?
I do not.
Do you know Logan? He's one of the best, one of the top physiques. He does Olympia. His wife is my best friend, Marissa Bish. She's known for her booty.
Okay.
So Bish.
She
Bish, yeah. She's awesome. Great people. But people have an outlook on who he is. And we know him very well. And I think, how can people say this about him? He's one of the kindest, most loving people. And he has an incredible physique. But he gets hated on more than any bodybuilder I've ever met. People are constantly just, you're a jerk, you're arrogant, and he's not. He's just an Army retired guy.
Part of that just comes from winning.
Yes, people like to hate.
They do.
And I think he's
people
really
hate Tom Brady, but every time you meet somebody that's met him, he's like, dude, he's the nicest guy in the world.
I'm trying to get Tom Brady hair. That's the goal here.
You're doing good so far. I can't.
That's the record.
I'm trying to get Mr. Clean hair.
Oh, you're on the right path there too.
Going for it. I mean, I didn't know that we were going to talk about this much in the podcast. And I want to get back to you, but that being said, that's not just in the bodybuilding world. It amazes me. I remember 2 years ago when Chris Stapleton sang the national anthem, and I see it on CBS Sports, and the headline is like Chris Stapleton absolutely slays the national anthem. I go to the comment section, and even probably the best singer I've ever heard, one of the top 5 best singers I've ever heard in my life. There's people that are saying, this guy sucks. Who's this fat, ugly guy that they got doing the national anthem? What a disgrace. They should have used so-and-so, or they should have used this person. And I'm like, golly.
And he killed it. You're right.
He killed it. It was like next to Whitney Houston. I mean, and it was right there with it. It was right there with it.
I would agree.
But I'm literally sitting there, I'm like, well, I don't care what anybody else says about me. I felt good.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt bad for Chris, but I mean, he ain't going to read those comments anyways. But for me, I'm sitting there, well, heck, man, I don't even feel that bad. These idiots make fun of me when I'm singing all the time, too. Maybe I'm really great, and maybe I sing as good as Chris Stapleton.
You are great.
You are great.
Yeah.
You might even be better.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
Yeah.
Well, to bring it back, like you were saying, a lot. So we do content creation. That's our specialty. Obviously, documentary filmmaking is our goal. That's our passion. We love doing that. But in the meantime, to pay our bills, we like helping businesses tell their stories. And that's a big fear that a lot of our clients have is putting themselves out there with the content. It has to be perfectly said, perfectly this, because they don't want to have the hate. You're going to get hated on no matter what. We had a client in Louisiana who called me after we shot a couple days with him. He's a big developer out there. He was like, Steph, I may have to tone down my videos because people are calling me saying I'm too big, I'm too bright, I'm too bold. I've gotten so many calls. I said, hey, guess what? People are watching your videos. Let's step it up a notch.
Yeah.
He sold a house in 24 hours and made $600,000 on one video.
Bam.
And I said, this is not the time to pull it back.
And Stefani said, your prices just went up.
I said, no, yeah. I'm like, hey.
I'll
But
come
it's
back
true.
and
Like,
shoot you again.
if people can just push past that resistance and the stories that they let other people in their lives control them, it's amazing what they can do with their brand. Social media is a free platform. Put yourself out there and love your haters, because your haters are going to be your biggest clients in the end. Always.
Yeah.
First they hate, then they replicate.
I was having this conversation yesterday with someone who's ready. He's a realtor, and he's ready to step his personal brand up via social media and video. And I explained to him that I sucked when I first started, and I actually used my 2 kids as a crutch, big time, because just them being involved gave me that crutch of, well, all eyes are going to be on them, not me, even though I'm the one telling the story of the video, right? So that's where my video started. But then you realize the more reps you take, the better you get.
Yep.
It's all about reps.
It's all about reps.
But it's like you said, it's free.
It's free.
It's
I mean,
free.
I say it's free, but you're paying for it with your time. So you're either going to pay for it with your money or you're going to pay for it with your time.
Yeah.
If you want to save your time, hire somebody who can stay ahead of it. If you don't have the money, then you got to give your time. But either way, you're coming out of pocket one way or the other. Just do it.
Yeah, that was one of the, I shared one of your posts with my wife today, and I was talking about posting on all the different social medias, not just on one, because so many people say, oh, well, this is the one I do really good on. I was like, yeah, but why would you not? If you already got the content made, why would you not post it on TikTok? Why would you not post it on Facebook and Instagram and whatever the school is the new one? And what's the one Trump's got? The
Not Bumble.
Social. Truth.
Bumble is a dating app.
Not
I'm telling you.
Is it Bumper?
Truth. Truth
It doesn't
social.
start with
Truth
a B.
Social.
Is
I mean, I don't care. Rumble, I think.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Rumble.
But
Is it
post it
Rumble?
on everything, because if one person sees it that ends up using your thing and it didn't cost you anything to post it,
You've already done the work.
why would you not
Work's
do
done.
it?
Yeah. And what that means for people who maybe don't understand is if you have a video file, like a QuickTime file or something on your camera roll, take it, post it on Instagram, post it on TikTok, post it on LinkedIn, put it on YouTube Shorts, put it everywhere. You already have it.
Yeah.
And just see. And we just did that. We had one we put up on our podcast page. It didn't get a lot of traction. But on TikTok, it went off. And I was like, okay. This proves exactly what I'm saying. It didn't do as well on this platform, but this woman had a voice and it needed to be heard. So you just never know.
Yeah, we had one
Yeah.
of Jared. I think it went over 1 million views.
What was it about? Do you
It was
remember?
on Instagram. I do remember. It was about taking control of what your girlfriend or your wife might need during a time of stress.
Oh, that was so good.
So he was talking about getting her a massage, not asking, but just doing. Like, hey, you're going to get a massage.
Yeah, just
Just
you know
take
what
this
she
time.
likes. His point was, you know what she likes. You know her. She's your wife.
Yeah.
So do something that's going to alleviate the stress.
And
Well,
women
boy.
hold a lot. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, no, they just focused in on that massage thing.
But
some of the comments were great.
it flew on Instagram.
Yeah.
But TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, nothing.
Tanked.
Tanked.
And you just depends on if you hit the right moment, the right song, the right, and it's no longer likes. How often do you guys scroll through Instagram and actually like a post?
Yeah.
Do you catch
No.
yourself liking anything anymore?
I always like all my friends' stuff.
Friend stuff, but
But most, well, if something really speaks to me, it has to
It
really catch
has
me.
to,
and
right?
and just so you know, people, if you're watching, if you get a like from me, I'm either on the toilet or sitting in standstill traffic. Just so you know, or sometimes on the recumbent bike whenever I'm trying to get in my cardio after I lift. So
so I say the likes. People think I didn't get enough likes on this post. Okay, that's fine. How many people shared it? How many people viewed it? That's
yeah.
why Reels.
Well, now the
became so
shares and the
popular.
saves are even more important than the likes. Well, and there's also so many bots and different things that can get you tons of likes. And
But you can tell it's always obvious.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah.
at least, I know when someone's paying for it.
Yeah.
The average Joe might not, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also want to look. The hashtags are out. Did you guys know this? Hashtags are kind of out.
yeah, I mean, I've still been using them, but I haven't noticed anything from it.
So as long as you put it in your keywords in your copy in the caption part of whatever you're posting, make it be so if you're doing music or a podcast, mention those words in the copy of your caption. because now they're running through
What's the
AI
copy of the
technology.
caption?
Like when you write out something in the caption, you have
Oh.
your post, and then it's like, what do you want to say?
Oh, it just
And you
does
add
the
it.
words even
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
those
yeah.
so they're Instagram and TikTok are using their AI SEO in the background for keywords.
So if I just type in motivation as part of my thing instead of hashtag
Yeah,
motivation.
exactly.
Okay.
Include it now.
Cool.
Yep.
Now I ain't got, because
There you
I'm
go.
always thinking, okay, if I say it like this and I have to throw the hashtag in there, is it still going to make sense when you read it? Because I focus on that stuff sometimes too much.
I love what you're doing with the motivation stuff too. And I don't know if you've noticed a difference. So I just did a little quick search on your page, but
Yeah.
people want value too. We don't want to be sold things anymore. When you're
Yeah.
scrolling and you see an ad, you know when it's an ad, right?
Yeah.
And you move on to the next. So how can you make that ad feel more organic? It's no longer, hey, are you a refined podcast listener?
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. It's like, hey, I was on the podcast today and we brought up this really life-changing moment and this is what happened. And now I'm sucked in. I'm like, I want to know what this is.
Yeah.
So, we call
Yeah.
those hooks. And then you don't start out with your name anymore. I'm Stefani Baca. I'm a filmmaker. And nobody cares. It's not
So-
about me. It's about them. What
Yeah.
do they want?
So I work with this publicist, Big Machine agency out of New York, and they're great. And they have a whole team of social media people, and they've been trying to tell me, Vinny, you don't have to say, hey, y'all, it's Big Vinny. Cause that's how it always started. Hey, y'all, it's Big Vinny. And they're like,
I like it, though.
Yeah, I mean, but they kind of told me, it's like, start off with it and then say you're Big Vinny in the thing. Like, oh, I'm Big Vinny, y'all, hope y'all have a great day.
Yes.
He goes, you can still add that in there because you always want the name recognition, but it don't have to be the first thing. And so now whenever I start my morning, and I only do them when God puts something on my heart to share. So, and when people, my publicist says, I need you to do one of those videos every single morning. I'm like, I don't feel led to do one every morning.
Good for you.
I was like, and then of course they wanted me to do this whole protocol now where you post the same thing 4 times a day on TikTok to see what time of day which one reacts and blah, blah, blah and all that stuff. And
Too
I'm like,
much work.
I was like,
So
I
I
don't
was
want
to
to do
say,
that crap.
it becomes, you'll begin to hate it.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. But I just started going, another day on the green side, or, up before the sun, done before the sun comes up, and that's kind of my little things that I kind of created in my head to be like, these are my little taglines that I want to say. And the up before the sun, done before, is when I do my 4 a.m. workouts, or when I get up at 4 a.m. to go train at 5. I do those little things because that's part of what that video series is going to have, is that
I love it.
that saying. But I have noticed that for whatever reason, my music stuff gets little to nothing. So maybe I'm not as good as Chris Stapleton, whatever. I'll get some love and stuff on it. My workout videos, usually a bunch of dudes saying, damn, dude, great job on lifting 300 pounds on your head.
Like Brian Shaw, look out. He ain't got nothing on you.
But you know what the crazy thing is I would have thought my demographic would have been mostly men, but it's not. It's like 75% women.
Do you know why?
Because I'm so handsome.
Well, of course, but why else? Do you know why else?
Because more women are on Instagram, maybe?
I'm going to go with it's because his joy and his spirit.
Mm-hmm. You're likable. And those motivational things, women share them with women.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh my gosh, a man with good soft music in the background, motivating the word of God. I'm going to share it with all my friends. They're not sharing it with their guy friends. They're sharing it with their girlfriends. I'm going to follow Vinny. So, if you ever want to flip that, you start doing more motivation towards men.
Yeah.
And then the women start sending it to their husbands.
Yeah.
Deepen your voice and lose that joyful spirit.
Hey,
Oh, I wouldn't. Don't ever change. And if anyone ever tells you to change who you are, they're not the right person for you.
No,
Preach.
I completely.
You want
I'm always going to
somebody.
be me.
You want someone who knows you and who can help elevate who you
gonna start
already
off.
are.
In a world where the day has not happened yet.
I'm Vinny. on the other side of
also.
That's every other podcast episode for the record. So you mentioned fear at the very beginning, that being your F word, your 4-letter F word. I deal with that every day in the mortgage business. People are scared to death to apply for mortgages. What do you find working to get people over fear?
Well, first I tell people that fear kills more dreams than failure ever did. Do I need to say it again?
Yeah,
No.
please do.
But I would
Fear-
like for
I'm
you
with
to.
you.
Hashtag.
Fear kills more dreams than failure ever did. And if they're going into a house thinking it's going to fail, they're already done. They need to go in thinking this is going to be the best thing of my life. And if you don't love that house, you don't have to make it your forever home, but invest in something that at least you like. If you don't like it, it's not the right house for you.
Yeah.
You have to believe in anything you put your money, your time, your energy into. You have to believe in it. And so I would just push it back on them. Do you really love this house? Because if you do, you will do anything it takes to get in it. no matter what the mortgage rate is.
Or to even get approved for it, right?
At least get approved.
Yeah,
How do
because
you don't know what you don't know.
So many that just think they're not capable.
How would you know? But that's so
Fear.
That happens. We talk ourselves out of it. We're constantly in our head. And so this is actually a great question. I appreciate you asking it, because how do we get past it? And what I always say is put one foot in front of the other and just keep spearheading. And and if it's not going to work or it's not meant to be, it's not going to happen. But once you start doing that, that snowball effect starts taking place, and you think, okay, my life feels a little out of control. This is happening so fast. I don't know what I'm doing. Why is this working out for me? Well, it's because it's what's supposed to happen. Just trust it.
Yeah.
Trust it. Like I went to Norway in January and swam with orcas. I had a 1 week notice, and I thought, I knew I had to go. I had to go to the Arctic Ocean. I'm terrified of cold. I get seasick. Am I going to get eaten by a whale? This is part of my whole spiel with our Great American Speak Off speech. And it's like, I knew I had to be there, and I knew it was going to be terrifying to make it happen, but I just knew it was a yes. So in 10 days, I packed in this trip, and I left. I was hanging off the boat, puking my brains out. I was freezing to the point that I thought my fingers and toes were literally going to fall off.
Sounds terrible.
It was awful. And I jumped in that water, and I swam with orcas, and it was the most incredible experience of my life. And I faced so many different fears. And I came back to talk about it, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I did it.
Are you going to do it again?
Heck yes. They're doing an excursion in the Baja of Mexico. I might do that one, so I don't have to worry about the cold. However, if you get seasick, you don't want to be hot.
Yeah,
you definitely want to be more cold.
Yeah, because they migrate towards Cabo, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're all over.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a point I came up from water, and the captain was like, dive down. And I was like, oh, I've been drinking so much salt water in this little snorkel I had, and I dived down, and here comes a freaking humpback whale just right in front of me, and then he disappeared. And I thought, this water is so deep that I cannot see this massive animal anymore. What else is underneath me, you know?
Yeah.
But you move through all those moments.
Oh, Loch Ness.
Yeah, but I mean, people
and
just,
they can eat you, for the record.
they sure can.
Massive.
But I would challenge your clients and to ask them what it is that's really scary. Is it that you're going to lose money? Because money comes and goes. Are you afraid you're in a bad deal? Okay, well, let's go back and look at the deal. Like, break the numbers down for them. I think, like, for us, when we bought our house, we were like, cool, we've got this. We can afford this.
Yeah.
Well, in Florida, I don't know if y'all know, our insurance rates are insane.
Crazy.
We went up $1,200 a month in escrow in 2 years. That's a lot of money when you think your mortgage is X amount of dollars, and now you're in a different... So what the Grant Cardone thing is, you don't have an income. You don't have a debt problem. You have an income problem. Go make more money.
Yeah.
And so just tell your people, like, hey, if it gets to that point, what are you going to do? You're going to sit down and lose your house, or are you going to make it work?
Right.
You're never going to not make it work.
I think it's the fear of failure most times.
Sure.
Just in general, just a broad net. I think it's failure. They're scared of that failure of not getting approved, not having the income, not having the credit, whatever the case might be. But I think that's fear as a whole as well, as I think people are just scared of failure.
So do people just not move through with the mortgage pre-approval first? They stop themselves right there.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you tell them?
Same. Like this is can create a family legacy. Like this is your number one pathway to wealth. If it's a no today, it's our job to work together to turn it into a yes tomorrow.
So is your goal to get them to do a pre-approval first? Is that step
Always.
one? And then some people will stop right there.
Yeah, a lot of them are just like they'll say they're going to do it, and then they ghost you from there.
Do you follow
And it's
up?
fear. Oh, absolutely.
How do you follow up?
Numerous ways.
What do you do?
So
Carrier pigeons.
There you go.
carrier pigeons.
Yeah. And there are no wrong answers, by the way. I like going deeper, and you know, Vinny, I like asking hard questions because then it helps me understand the real problem.
Yeah. So first two follow-ups are every 72 hours via text. Mm-hmm. And then the third 72 hours is a phone call, and then rinse and repeat, but instead of text, email. And then third time, phone.
Are you like, hey,
it's different
just
every
checking
time.
In? Are you just
so
checking
it's
in?
honestly it's preset.
Uh-huh.
It's all automated because who's got time for that when you're
Nobody.
dealing with hundreds of people? So yeah, it's a whole sequence that's pre-mapped out.
Do you speak to the problem in your follow-up, or do you just say, like, I'm just checking in? Or are you like, hey, I know this is really scary.
It starts with just wanting to make sure you receive the email and the needed information. And then the next one's probably something along the lines of, hey, is this something you're still wanting to do? We're here to help walk you through it. Let us know what the issues are, and so on and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's interesting for me. I've always been more afraid of regret than failure. And it wasn't something that I studied or that some magical, guru said that made me think that. It's just my natural way of being. I'm like, I don't ever want to wake up 15 years from now, 10 years from now and be like, man, what if I would have tried? So when I was trying to be the best football player, I went at it every single possible way that I could. Whenever I was when I've been in the music industry, it's like when I first got here, people were like, you're 450 pounds. You're never going to get a record deal, but you could be a songwriter. I was like, nah, bro, I'm about to be on that stage. Next thing you know, within a year, I'm on stage. I'm out there touring with Toby Keith. I would have much rather, went out there and failed completely and fell on my face than to not ever try it at all. And how do you get people to have that mentality? I mean, like I said, it's more natural for me to be that way. Like, I'd rather risk it all. I'd rather put it all on. I'd rather be like, all in, and let's find out. Either we're leaving the table or we about to see what we got happening, And I failed. I mean, I failed many times with that mentality and went out there and said, well, that didn't work. That was a waste of $10,000 or that was a waste of this or that. But it's also led me to great opportunities that have worked out great for me. And I think when it comes to what you're doing, people better start buying houses now and land now because
it's only getting worse.
It's going to go up. And I don't know that interest rates are really going to come down as much. I mean, it's not really as bad as what you think. I mean, it's really just kind of back to where it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But everybody's like, oh my gosh, I was getting 2%, 2.8%. I was like, that wasn't normal. That was,
and it should have never happened, for the record.
Yeah.
I mean, that is why we are where we are today. It should have never happened.
I mean, I took advantage of it.
Yeah.
I bought a house during that time because I had good credit and I could. But it's just not going to happen in the future. You're going to have either 25, 30, 40% down. You're going before you get any kind of loan with any kind of decent thing, or you're just not going to be able to buy. You're just going to be renting. I would tell anybody that's looking at the house right now, I'm like, dude, go ahead and buy it. If it magically drops in the next 2 or 3 years, refinance then.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that you should put it on hold buying a house right now. I think if you can buy land, buy property, buy a house. I mean, I didn't have a clue how I was going to buy that, the resort whenever I did. But I went out there and, put together a team of folks and went in and got that thing. And, now we got 100 acres on the Buffalo River. It's
I
making
think
its
if you
own
can
money.
make it make sense financially,
Yes.
you have to do it.
You have to do it.
There's not a no
Yep.
in that scenario.
Yeah.
And people have so much fear behind the house because it's the biggest investment they're ever going to make. And so if you can explain it to them, you just make it very clear. This is what pre-approval means. You're not doing a hard credit check, are you? It's a soft credit check.
It depends.
Yeah.
Depends on how quick we're moving.
Well, some people get afraid of that because society's like, oh, keep your credit. Don't have. So if you can explain it to them, this is what we're actually doing. You'll get the fear out of the way immediately of the credit check. And I think people are afraid that maybe they're not going to qualify for as much or they're going to qualify for more and they can't afford that. So if you can just be the expert and build the trust with them, they'll always go to you. And if you have time to restructure some of your follow-up, maybe speak to the problems. Use the language that they use instead of, hey, just check it in, because that's what we all do. And people are like, nah, next. Yeah. But if you say, I understand. When I bought my first house, these were the fears I had. Speak it to it. Now, I've been there. I know where you're coming from. Here's how I can help you. And just simple stuff. Because now they're like, okay, Jeff is a human. He's been where I am. He gets it. So start listening to the responses you're getting and start including that in your follow-up and in the information you're sending out to people.
I got something to do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do.
Send it to me. I'm happy to review it. This is what I do for a living.
New copy. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Jeff. Just kind of spitballing here, but whenever I bought my home now, the company I went through before me and Jeff were buddies. When I went through this process and I got this home, I was really urged to put down 20% so that I didn't have mortgage insurance, which was like $200 a month. But I could have put down like 20 grand and kept 80 grand liquid in my account to invest in other things. Would it not have been better to pay that $200 a month mortgage, thing? And now I know I would have had less equity in my house, but I'd had $80,000 liquid to invest in other properties, other, things. What do you, I guess it could depend on the person, but what do you think you would give advice to the person that's doing that?
I think it comes down to two things. One, it's a math equation, right? It's like you're saying, however much you could have left in the bank versus $200. Let's say that difference is 50 grand. You could have kept the 50 grand, but been paying $200. Well, if you do 200 times however many months you would have been paying it, does that equate to 50 grand? If the answer is no, I'm keeping my 50 grand.
There you go.
But you've got to be willing to live with the payment as well, right? So that's the second part of it. If I had 20% to put down, I'm not doing it. I'll tell you that much. My max would probably be 15%. That's
Oh no! If I could
seems to
go
be the
back and
sweet
redo
spot.
it, I would definitely
Yeah.
not put down 20%.
Same.
I would keep that $200 mortgage insurance, and I would have taken that 80 grand and I would have invested in some other some
Same.
other things.
Yeah.
So,
Because I mean, if you look at it, if you got let's say it's 15% versus 20, so you're going to keep 5% of 500,000 in the bank,
Yeah.
so 25 grand, and your PMI is going to be $30 a month. Why am I going to give you $25,000
yeah.
to save $25 a month? I'm out.
Yeah, and I was at a point where I could have put down. I want to say I could have put down. It was like 6.5% or something like that. I had a couple of different options because my wife had like a 890 credit score and I had like a 714. But I fought back for that 714, buddy.
What I'm hearing is that your wife seems pretty cool. She seems
Yeah.
like
Oh,
dope.
you'll love my wife. You and
can't
her
wait
would
to
be
meet
y'all
her.
would be best
Yeah.
buds. She's you have to see her business and what she does.
Yeah, I'd
So
love
she
it.
has her online fitness thing and all that. But yeah, I would definitely make the different decision on this one. And I felt like I was making the right decision because I was being informed. And not that they're a bad company. They were great.
Yeah.
They helped me through all the whole process and all that. And I'm not throwing names out there because
Yeah.
the only mortgage company we talk about on here is Jeff Suter. And because is it new name yet?
Yeah, it's out. Home Bucks.
Home Bucks.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good
I
name.
like it.
Yeah, Home Bucks.
I like it too.
Home Bucks.
Home Bucks.
Yeah,
It's like
with the
Homeboys,
X
but for
instead of
hunters.
CKS, BNX.
Yeah, what's your logo
Home Bucks.
like?
It's beautiful. Jim over here's seen it. I know y'all can't see Jim, but Jim's seen the Home Bucks logo.
We'll have to send it over. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I did a fall keynote, I guess about 10 days ago, and had the logo all in it.
I would go and talk to people and just ask them questions. Don't tell them what you do, but just ask them how their experience was with their mortgage and what were the biggest hiccups and the biggest fears and
Yeah.
what stopped them, and then start including that in everything you do.
Sounds like a podcast.
It does.
Let me ask you this. So when are you going to be buying another house in Tennessee? Because I happen to know a mortgage and I can refer you to him and get my referral fee.
Let's do it. Well, we
So-
were trying. I actually have a really great realtor here. Our goal was to buy land in Tennessee. So when you say it's not going anywhere, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
We came in here after we did the whole year in the van life, trying to buy 100 acres. We looked even down in Colioca, which is beautiful.
I love
Who
Colioca,
knew,
yeah.
right? But growing up, it's like, okay, what's Pulaski, Tennessee, and Colioca?
Yeah.
It just wasn't what it
Perry
is
County,
today.
baby. I can get you 100 acres in Perry County. It's going to be
So-
covered in woods.
That's what I want.
But there's a lot of
though.
white oak down
That's
there.
what
So
I
you can go do a select cut and go make 100
Exactly.
grand on your property.
Exactly. I want to keep some parts of Tennessee still Tennessee before it gets, bulldozed out. And at the time, we just kept getting outbid. Everyone from California left, started coming over and outbidding. And I thought, there's no way. We just can't compete in this market that everybody
Did you
says
tell them
is
you
so
had the idea to
terrible.
move out of California first?
Yes, I did. I was like, you guys are followers. I'm a leader. And so we ended up in Destin. And it was not on my plan. Again, want to make God laugh. Tell me your plans. And it's just, I never in a million years thought I'd live there. I am still trying to get back here. So if you come across anything, let me know. Because
If you're going to be here, is it Saturday?
I'll be here Saturday.
Jared's having an open house on the brand new house that he just did. It's over
Beautiful.
Is it on lots of land? I want
That's
to
what I was
No.
saying. It does not come with land.
Yeah, I
no.
need land.
But
It's
it
in
does-
West Haven.
But it is
Ooh.
beautiful.
It's very nice.
I live out by West Haven.
And his wife Jen is maybe the best home decorator. The stuff she comes up with, I'm like, is that even possible? And then the next thing you know, Jared's in there building it. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He goes, I'm putting a kitchen that has another kitchen on the opposite side called a dummy kitchen and blah, blah, blah. And he's explaining it to me. I'm like, I don't know. And then I see the videos. I'm like, dude, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Does she do your staging too?
So I only do the mortgages. She is a licensed realtor as well. So she does the staging and the building and the home design and what's the name of the company?
Home company.
Home company. Yeah, that's it.
Home Bucks, home company.
Bucks?
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I know. It does make sense.
I will be there
Yeah.
Saturday.
Cool. All right.
Yeah,
maybe
I think
I'll
I'm
swing
going to
by.
try and come out there. Yeah.
Right down the street.
It's a beautiful, beautiful home. They've
Yeah.
redone. It's like a $2 million redo, or I don't know what they're charging for it, but it's incredible. It's a beautiful, beautiful house. And they have another one, Carol,
Carol.
and it's
yeah.
got a little bit of land on it. It's got a in-law suite and all kinds of stuff in it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
She's looking for Perry County type land.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Land.
land,
Oh,
right?
well, listen, we'll go out to Perry County tomorrow.
I'll meet you guys down there.
Let's go.
I'm ready.
I'll go show you. You haven't seen my resort.
When you say resort, what do you mean? What is this?
We got a lodge that sleeps up to 22 people. We got 4 cabins. We got canoeing, camping, kayaking, tubing on the lazy river, 8-mile trip and a 5-mile trip.
What are you doing with this resort?
Rednecking.
I want to go redneck down
It's a
there
redneck
with you.
resort.
Redneck Riviera.
Listen, no, I'll put you on the river tomorrow. You want to go down there and get on some kayaks? I'll put you on our 8-mile float. You'll love it.
Yes, let's do it.
All right.
Y'all, look, when I say there's fear, like I've been kicked in the head twice by a horse. I've been riding horses my whole life. Like to go back on that whole topic is how do you, because you asked something about fear and the failure, it's just how uncomfortable are you willing to be? Like they always say do hard things. Yeah, do hard things. So when you're stuck in a moment of it being hard, it's really not that hard anymore. So going out to a redneck resort, let's go, baby.
Yeah, I'm in.
Not that that's a hard thing. That seems like something really easy and calm.
It's a cool
but-
spot.
People
and
love it.
It's
Yeah.
been cool. Like we had a big Patriot event there last week. There's a thing called Patriot Party News that has different speakers and stuff, and they come out there and utilize the whole property. And then I got a mastermind coming in there.
Cool.
May 31st through June the 2nd or 3rd, and got Bill Walsh coming in, and several other big speakers are coming in, and they're gonna do a mastermind and teach people how to scale their businesses and all that kind of stuff. And I'll just be in there hanging out. My wife's gonna come in and do workouts with them every morning while they're there. And
Yes. Do you
be
have
cool.
speakers all lined up for it, or it's not really
No.
yours? Is it theirs?
Well, it's not mine. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm going to be part of it because
Hosting it.
That's one of my things. I was like, hey, I would love to have this at the property, and I will give you the best price ever. But I would like to be there to speak as well. And
Do
Are
you
you
have
going to?
people hired to do the content?
Oh yeah, who's doing content?
we need to talk about that.
Let's do it. We'll really blast up that resort. We're actually
Yeah.
once we leave here, we're headed to Branson, Missouri, to do a resort as
I
well.
love some Branson, Missouri.
Not like your.
Well, it wouldn't be
resort,
about the
but-
resort. It would be if I would
event.
introduce you to Richard Coletti, who is the guy that's putting it on with Bill Walsh and Lee Haight, and there's another. Can't think of the name.
Yeah, I'd be honored.
But yeah, that would be a cool thing. I'll talk to him today, and I'll get y'all connected and see if it's something he wants to do, because they definitely need to have footage of all this stuff.
Yep.
I always hire a videographer to come out whenever I put on we put on concerts. We had Tyler Farr there last year. We had the Pop 2000 tour out there. We had Colt Ford, and he's getting better, by the way. Anybody that's listening that loves Colt Ford, he suffered a heart attack, was in ICU for about 2 weeks, but he has come out of it, and he's talking again and getting
He's
better.
gonna have a good
So,
story behind that, won't he?
Yeah. Well, let's get into this and talk a little bit more about you, because I wanted to kind of know where you come from. So tell me a little bit about your childhood, growing up. What was your family like? All that kind of stuff, because there had to be a reason you became this dreamer, this person that was willing to risk it all and go out there to LA and shoot content and create things, and then move again to Miami, and then move again to Destin. So what was tell me a little bit about the people that helped make you who you are.
It's a great question. Really, I think honestly, I give a lot of it to God. I believe our path is planned before we're here, and that's just always been the direction. The needle's always pointed this way, north, and everyone else is like, go east and south and west, and I just knew it had to be this. And so my childhood, I grew up from a divorced family. I was 8 weeks old when my parents actually split.
Wow.
It was very dramatic and traumatic. My parents hated each other, and we were, of course, in the middle. So there were a lot of times where I had to be creative to get my childhood to blossom, because I grew up to be a child. Yeah. And I didn't get a lot of that because I grew up on a farm out near Fairview, and I was a worker. That's how I survived. We had horses, so it was up in the morning with chores, go to school, catch a bus. Again, at the time, we were not grandfathered out to Franklin. We were grandfathered to Fairview, but my mom fought for it, thankfully. So we would take a bus to Fairview, switch the bus, and then go to Franklin. I was first one on, last one off every day. I mean, a 2-hour bus ride.
Wow.
So all I've known is work. And some people say I could potentially be a workaholic, but when I was 13, I was babysitting. I paid my way through anything I wanted. My horses, my parents just didn't have the support. There were 4 of us. We were in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, 6 of us. So you can imagine, I mean, this is a crazy story, but my sister and I sometimes would share half a toilet seat to pee because we both had to go at the same time. So I didn't grow up in a wealthy household. We had everything we needed. We had love and support as much as we could, but my parents were also trying to survive, divorced of 4, and just, anyway, we had moments like everybody else. And I think I got to unpack a lot of my trauma at a young age, where some people don't get that luxury. I had a lot of support. I had panic attacks. I had anxiety. I had things that would come up because my life felt really out of control. Hence why maybe now in my future, I'm a little more of a control freak, because I leaned into that lack of control when I was younger. I found that a lot of who I am today somebody could look back and say, oh, woe is me, I'm a victim, this was my life. I don't like to do that. I like to say, kind of tapping into your failure comment, I believe you learn from everything. And if we can shift our perspective into that happened for me, not to me. And I know that's so cliche and people say that all the time, but I really mean it.
No, that's the truth.
The things I experienced at a young age, they don't go through those in a lifetime. And I had to maybe go up on a judge stand and chew my dad out when I was 12 years old to lose custody for 10 years. Like, there were things I had to do at a young age that most people don't ever have to do.
Yeah.
And my friends would be like, oh, come play with us, come hang out. And I was working. I started the restaurant industry at 15. I was hosting and serving. I put myself through college. I'd come home on the weekends from West Tennessee.
What was your restaurant?
Okay, let's see. I worked at a place called Copeland's. I think it shut down. I worked at Merchants. There was one in Cool Springs.
Yeah.
I worked at the Nashville Pizza Company through college. I'd come home on the weekends and serve pizza to people and go back to college and pay for my $150 a month rent, which was really hard for me to pay sometimes. And I'm like, golly, looking back now, I'd love to pay a $150 mortgage. So there were just things where, I struggled a lot. And in college, the average person who takes their semesters, 12 hours? I would meet with the dean personally and get approved for 32 hours. So I dual degreed and double minored in 4 years. And so I'm not, when I say I'm an extremist and I take risks, I'm not someone who just does the minimum. If the minimum is here, I'm up here. And it's not because maybe I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but to me, I don't want to wake up on my deathbed and say, I wish I would have done this.
You know what? I think the part of the key to that too is but you're doing something you love. You're doing something you enjoy. It's a lot easier to go spend, 3 and 4 times the amount of what a normal person would go spend just doing the bare minimum, because they're doing the bare minimum because they hate their job.
Yes.
They hate what they're doing to make their money. And that's a tough place to be in, because sometimes you have to take those jobs in order to get to the point to where you can have the passionate job that you care about. Mm-hmm. And it happens a lot of times in the music industry. People, they're like, okay, well, I'll just do this right here to make this, side hustle until I make it in music, and then the next thing they're making so much money, they kind of push the dream off to the side. Mm-hmm. And then they wake up one day and they're like, man, I should have tried that one more time, or I should have done this. Mm-hmm. And, I feel bad for those people. I feel good for them, the fact that they created a great life for them and their family. And I think, your dreams change as you get older mm-hmm. and things like that. But I know I have personal friends that, they still talk about, man, I think I could have done it. If I'd have just tried this right here, if I would have just stuck with it a little bit longer, and I always think about that meme. It's got the 2 guys and they're digging, for a diamond, and they dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. And this one, gets, just tired out, and he's like another 4 foot of wall, 4 foot of digging. He would have, whatever got there. The other one keeps on going and he gets the big mm-hmm. diamond, And there was a guy that I can't remember the whole story, but they were digging for a vein of gold over at a mine in San Francisco years and years and years ago. And they couldn't find this vein of gold that they thought they were going to find. And finally he just sells out the whole thing, and then they go in and the guy looks at the maps, the new guy that had bought the place looks at the maps, and it was like 3.5 foot over the vein of gold. Was 3.5 foot. They were just not on the vein. But if they had just dug 3.5 foot over into the wall, they would have hit that vein of gold. So they were digging back instead of digging sideways. So,
well, and to further on that, you guys have a podcast. So they say the first 20 podcasts people give up.
Yeah.
They stop. But why? What is it about that number? Is it that you're not seeing the views, you're not getting the clicks? Well, I challenge people to say, why are you doing it? Not necessarily what's your why. I feel like people overuse that. My why is curiosity.
Yeah.
I love adventure. I love being told no. It's my favorite because it's a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm like, watch this. Hold my beer.
I think people struggle with consistency.
Yes.
In a lot of things in life. So when you throw a podcast in there, it takes consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you already struggle with consistency, what's the first thing to go?
Well, I think also
Podcast.
people, they have this, I'm going to do a podcast and it's going to be great. And then they start it off and then they do their first episode and they talk for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, and they kill it and they crush it. And they're like, I'm so proud of this. And then they do their second episode. Maybe it's about an hour and they're like, yeah, I felt pretty good about it. And then they do the third and then they do the fourth. And the next thing you know, they're doing a 15-minute podcast and they don't really know what they're talking about, who they're interviewing, why they're interviewing. I love the fact that we did this as 3 of us in 3 different minds, because we all have different things. Like, oh, I'd like to bring this or I'd like to bring that. I give kudos to those guys and girls that go out there and do a podcast by themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I would have no problem sitting and talking all the time. Mm-hmm. But it keeps it fresh whenever, Jeff brought in Nick Alfano, Nick Alfano last week, and I mean, he told me, he's like, I think you're gonna be best. We were gonna do 3 different episodes. We did it so long with him. Gross.
He came in for one episode.
That's what she
and
said.
4 hours later, we left.
Yeah, and we turned it into 3 episodes, but it's like we let it kind of flow. I know Jim loves it; it's his favorite thing to deal with every week. But yeah, we're right at a year now of putting this out and doing it, and you know, we were looking at it. I was looking at it the wrong way because I was like, man, you know, we ain't got any real sponsors yet, or we're not getting millions of views and all this other stuff. Then I realized, like, well, dude, we're getting pretty good, you know, on Spotify, getting pretty good views there. We're getting pretty good views on Apple Podcasts. We're getting okay. The thing is our reels and stuff would get pretty massive or really good on our TikToks and our Instagrams and all that. But on Instagrams, but on the YouTubes, we won't get a lot of people watching it. At first, I was like, man, I want people to watch it on YouTube. And then Jeff told me one day, he goes, Vinny, he said, most people probably can't watch the YouTube while they're working out or while they're riding down the road or while they're doing this and that because, you know, they have to be able to look at it. He says a lot of people are going to listen to it in their car. They're going to listen to it while they're working out. They're going to listen to it while they're on their drive to work or whatever, but they're not going to be able to watch it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so it put it into you know, I guess perspective, whatever for me. But what changed everything for me was we did this one episode about Jelly Roll. And we were talking about how this preacher had got on TikTok talking about how Jelly Roll was a false prophet and nobody should be following him because, you know, he's just saying the devil's words and even the devil knows this and that and blah, blah. And I was like, man, this is a dude that is a new Christian. He's not a new Christian, but he's new to confessing his love for Christ. And he's out there and he's talking about how it's changing his life and how he tries to put God into everything he does. And you know, in the thing he had just talked about, he goes, Jesus didn't go in and hang out with people that were already saved. He went out and said he would have been a biker if he was here right now, you know? And I mean, that was what the whole thing was. And so he was saying all this bad stuff. I was like, man, I said, first off, don't try to put out the flame. I mean, if somebody, when they first become happy about something, that what I used to say, ignorance on fire when I was in business, because people get in there, they're excited, they want to go, they have no clue what they're doing, but they want to tell everybody about it, you know? And I just thought it was great that he's out there on his platform saying the name of Jesus Christ, you know? And we had said this on there, and I said in that clip that Jeff made, I said something to the effects of, you never know. I said, he'll get to more people than that preacher ever will. I was like, because there's liable to be somebody that's listening to Jelly Roll because he's Jelly Roll. And then he's sitting there, but this person be sitting there with a gun in his mouth, and all of a sudden he, you know, hears Jelly Roll saying, I love Jesus Christ, and it completely changed my life and saved my life. And he goes, wait a second, let me give this Jesus thing a try. Well, it was about 5-6 months ago now, but somebody sent me a message on TikTok and said, I just want you to know this clip came across whenever I was sitting there with the gun in my mouth. Wow. And I saw this clip, and that made me decide not to do it.
Wow.
And
pretty dope, right?
Your podcast right there is success.
Oh, it was worth
success.
it. It was worth everything,
Success.
every dime we've spent, everything we've done, the time. Because I mean, the money is one thing, but it's really you're saying, hey, I know that I'm going to go spend 3 or 4 hours, you know, away from my family tonight, and I'm going to go, you know, do this. I'm going to hang out with these two knuckleheads.
Yeah.
You know?
You're talking about him, right?
but like I said, that right there made it to where I was like, man, we need to keep doing this no matter what.
Yeah. But you don't give up. And you push through those voices in your head that say, you suck, you're a failure, you're only getting 200 views. When's the last time you were in a room with 200 people that listened to what you had to say?
Yeah.
Don't discredit those 200 people. Same on Instagram. People say that, my video is not viral. Well, going viral doesn't mean conversion. It just means attention, which is also great, but focus on the audience you have right now. You have 300 or 20 people that follow you. Those 20 people believe in what you're doing and what you're saying. Lean into that. Stop worrying about these million numbers that just aren't realistic for everybody. And same with podcasts. You know, you impact one, the power of one. Yeah. All it takes is one.
Hey, said he left the 99 to go back for the one.
Yeah. So true.
Now I think that's awesome. So with you know, where you're going now and what you're doing, I mean, I know you're working on businesses and stuff like that, but is there something that is like that one passionate thing you're like, man, I want to do this?
It ain't a passion that we learn, we were born with it. Every